Welcome back. All right, so we're here for tonight's video, and it's going to be a little bit of a mix-up like usual. So I'd like to start off by talking about this thing. So this is a car that's in the shop, not for too long. The client is going to get married in September coming up, so just under a year from now. But this thing is just a rolling shell right now. So the motor's in getting built. I have a transmission here for it right there. And it's got to get everything else plumbed, wired, interior, paint. It's got to go through everything. But the reason it's here, let's jump under the back, is because they went ahead and got a Fab, there goes my angle finder. They got a Fab 9-inch in the back of this thing. And trying to put it in, there's a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't really work. Let's jump to the other side and we'll go through what it's getting, how we got to where we're at right now, and yeah, hopefully where we're gonna be in a day or so. All right, so first things first. This thing has kind of a weird suspension from the factory. They have the transmission mount up here, which this is an aftermarket one with a drive shaft safety loop. And then they come all the way back down this torque arm, and that's what locates the axle pinion angle front to back like this. You have these two little lower mounts here, which in this car are chromoly, and then he's got his coilovers right there. So what we need to do is this torque arm doesn't mate up to the 9-inch. Let me see if I can jump around here and get a good angle. There you are. So the torque arm here doesn't go to the 9-inch, and that's because we need to get this whole entire front end of it off to get to the gear set. So a lot of these ones, they mount this thing right to the front of the axle, and then on most cars you pull the cover off the back end, and that's how you access the inside. So what we're doing is we're going to remake this whole torque arm here, which goes all the way from basically where your butt goes. We're going to make it so that instead of going straight back like it does, it's going to bend over like this to the driver's side, and it's going to connect here on this lower 45. The same with the top. The top's going to go and bend over. Let's see if I can show you. There you go. It's going to bend over this way, kind of snake around, and it's going to mount to this top side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run one from this side across like this on top the drive shaft, and we're going to join into this top one right here. So that's the first stuff that it's going to do. So that's going to help locate the axle front to back and get the pinion set. But we need something that's going to stop it from going side to side. So in here, here's your factory mount right here, this lower bolt. And the panhard bar comes all the way across and joins on this side. Now you guys have seen that on the 06. It's basically the same setup. But this client wants to put this anti-roll bar in. So this bar here that I have laying up on the straps usually mounts back here on the frame, and then these little arms point forward like this and go and attach to the axle. We're going to do it opposite. So what I want to do is mount the bar in the center of the axle tube here, and then come backward this way and put those arms straight up to the frame. The reason I want to do that is, one, it'll keep that thing nice and tucked up out of the way, so you know you don't hit it on a stick or a branch or speed bump or whatever. And then two, it actually will let us mount these arms right directly to the bottom of the frame rail in the back of this thing. So my theory is it'll be a little bit stronger that way. Mounting right to the bottom, we'll just put a little plate on there and mount right to it. So what we need to do, or what we did do, was order the steel for the new torque arm. That should be in hopefully tomorrow. And then I went through and, oh, here's one. This is the factory roller bearing mount here. So what I'm going to do is remake these two tabs. I'll send them over to Dynamic, get those cut, and we can weld them on the back of this flat piece here, and then that'll mount that anti-roll bar so we can start doing that. So all that said, there is a ton of work to be done in the back of this thing. We already have about 3 hours into it, making sure that it's exactly where we want it at ride height, because that's all going to change relative to how much clearance we have getting into the car. So we set the car at ride height, set it in here, and with these straps, we're able to pull it so the rear end is centered in the car exactly where we want it. Pinion angle is set exactly where we want it. And then we could take measurements of everything that we need to remake. Now, I can't tell you too much about the setup on this thing, but I will say that it is a turbo LS, and it's going to be an automatic. I believe it's a TH400, but whatever. So that's what's going on with this thing. We're going to try and get all this rear end done for him, and the front end, let's run over here. So the front end has this wicked tubular setup in it, but the spindles that it has are supposed to use a Heim joint, and apparently when this is straight, as you can see, there's not much clearance between the tie rod right here and the spindle. So we're going to actually make a custom set of bump stop or bump steer adapters. So it'll screw into here, it'll screw into the Heim joint that goes up into this spindle. So we're going to do that, so at least when he goes to take it out of here, we can push it and steer it and get it back on the trailer, and he can go and finish whatever he has to do. Now, hopefully while it's still here, the motor is finished, because we'd like to put the motor in here and do, you know, kind of that stuff while it's here, and, you know, maybe the brake lines and fuel lines. We'll see how long we got. We'll see, you know, how much we can get done, but we're going to help him out as much as we can. The guy's getting married, and his wife wants him to drive this home, so that's pretty badass, and we're going to help. So that gets you up to date with where we're at on this Trans Am. Now let's jump over to the Mustang and we'll get to tonight's project. All right, so I'm not sure exactly where we got to when we went through the review on this thing, but I will go over a couple things now. So I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up really well, but you can see this panel here is kind of like a flat black, and the rest of the engine bay is gloss black. The same thing over here under the blow-off valve. So you can see here's all flat black, and the rest of the bay is gloss black. So the client said he'd like to get the engine bay resprayed. All gloss black, all pretty, just get it done, which is great. But whoever did the work on the car previously kept the coil here, and you can see these 4 holes, one right there. That's for the MSD box. So I figured, well, if we're going to be doing all this work to shave the engine bay, make it look nice, hide all the wires, all that kind of stuff, in my opinion, it would look better without those 2 items. So what we need to do is grind all the paint off here, weld these holes up, and then we're going to move up here. And this is your wiper cowl. This is usually where your wiper assembly sits. There's some linkages that go back and forth to make sure that the wipers go up and down together. Well, whoever decided to work on this car previously, let me spin you around, decided that right here was a good spot to mount the starter solenoid. So you can see the hole here, you can see the hole here, and if I twist you, you can see that ginormous hole down underneath. So not only will rain go right in here, or water when you wash it, or whatever, it would get right on this rat's nest of wiring that was in this area, which you could see right through, and it looked, in my opinion, pretty ugly. But also the rain and everything will go right down on your feet. So I want to pull all that out. Also, did you notice that that panel I showed you with the 2 holes in it was not even painted, just raw metal? Well, if you look in here, they filled all these holes where the old heater box used to go. And again, these are all just raw steel. So that's going to start rusting really, really quickly. There's also a hole here. There's another one down here. And then if we kind of peek up here, again, back up into the wiper cowl, you can see all this mesh that's here. And you can see this hole. This hole right here is probably 7 or 8 inches across and 2 to 3 inches this way. So water's just going to come right in that, again, if you're washing or whatever. So what we want to do is start welding up the holes in here. We'll plug that one up top there and pull out all that wire mesh, and then we're going to jump to the other side. Now way down here you can see that light where I'm pointing. That's 4 holes there, again, that go directly to the outside. And if you're driving in something that's, you know, watery, or you hit a puddle on the road or whatever, all that water is going to come into the car. So our goal tonight is to start filling some of these holes. We'll go through and get this air intake tube off, and we're going to take the caster camber plates off since the struts aren't attached to anything anyways. We're going to pull the brake booster here, and we're going to pull the hood hinges there. And I'm hoping with all that done, if we can get the welding done. Now this thing is ready as soon as the paint shop is open and ready to take it. We'll be prepared, so we're not the holdup. They can do their thing. If we get all that done in relatively short time tonight, I want to start tackling this wiring. So all the wiring we took out of the vehicle is back here in the hatch area now. And what I did was I just pulled the entire harness out. Didn't really look at much of anything since it was all run in weird places anyways. So what we're gonna do is start taking this harness out. We're gonna lay it out all over the floor, and we're gonna start figuring out, okay, these wires have to go to the front, these wires have to go to the front right, front left, these ones are going to the back, whatever, so we can start putting loom on them and getting them run through the chassis. Basically what I wanna do is I don't want that engine bay to hold us up, so we'll start running wiring, we'll start running everything that we can, getting it prepped, so that as soon as that thing comes back from the engine or the paint shop, we can go ahead and try and drop that engine back in. Now, that engine has not been turned over. I haven't even really looked in it. I threw our bore scope down it, and it looked like the cylinder bores were okay. But like I said, there is that 1.25 inch hole or whatever it is at the back of the intake for the PCV system that was left open for 7 to 10 years, somewhere in there. And with the amount of mouse turd in the back of this, I'd be very surprised if they didn't get down in that engine and find a nice little home. So we're gonna have to pull the intake and go through that. Hopefully while this is out at the paint shop for a week or two, we'll be able to pull that. Fingers crossed there's no real damage, and when it comes back, we'll be able to slip this thing back down in the hole. So all that said, you know about the Trans Am, you know what the goal is tonight. Enough chatting, let's get to it. All right, so I just went and hit this with the flap wheel, as you could see, and this one back here, it's like 3/8 of an inch thick of Bondo and fiberglass. So you can see the different colors here, and the same thing here. This side over here is at least 1/8 of an inch thick. So I'm not a body guy. I don't know what the best thing to do here is. Let them splooge it back up with a bunch of Bondo, seeing as though that must be what they did to all the other holes. You see right here, there's a hole there, and that's all they wanted to do there. So, man, I'm not really sure. If we look down at this one, that's pretty thin there, but when you look here, it's really thick, and there's some cracking around it. There's some cracking right here. So, yeah, I'm not really sure what to do. Help. All right, so after a whole lot of contemplating, I just said, screw it. We're gonna do it properly. We're gonna weld the holes up. So I went through and ground them. As you can see, these 4 right here are ridiculous with how thick it is. These ones up here weren't too bad. It's thick here and started to taper right out. Over here was basically nothing. This hole was basically nothing. These ones are, you know, a little bit. Those two are a little worse. Those ones are a lot. So I ground those. I jumped to the inside of the car. And on those parts that they welded in there, there was like a little lip in the factory parts. They left that lip on, so if you try to put sound deadening or carpet or whatever, you're always gonna have that lump. So we ground all those lumps off, ground the welds down. So now when it goes in to paint the engine bay, I'll have them spray this backside so that it's nice sealed. We don't have to worry about it rusting, and you don't have those lips there. So if you go put sound deadening or whatever, it just makes it a little bit easier. Anyways, let's go grab the welder, start going. So we got the front of the firewall there patched. We got the hole that used to go back into the cabin. We got the 4 from the coil. And we have the 5 from the MSD box. So all that stuff's been patched up. Now it's time to move back down to the interior. Like I said, we have that massive hole right up there. So that's what we're going to attack now. And yeah, let's get her done. Okay, so that's what we're gonna call this video, guys. It's been, you know, a couple hours now, 3.5 hours. And we talked about this one back here that'll have some work done tomorrow or the next day. We got a whole bunch of work done here on this Mustang. That plate up underneath the dash, I'm gonna have Dynamic cut it out for us. I made a little template. The sheet metal that I have here is either way too thick or just a little bit too small, and I don't want to weld huge gaps and have it look like junk. So we're gonna have them cut us a piece tomorrow. Like I said, I have some other stuff over there already, so I have to go down. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. We got a whole bunch of work done on this thing. Now when the body shop is ready, we're not the holdup. They can take it and do what they have to do. In the meantime, we'll jump back on here and start pulling wiring and start looming that all up and getting that ready to go. And then hopefully our steel tube is in for this thing tomorrow or the next day. I don't know. Anyways, take it easy. We'll catch you at the end of the week for another video. And make sure you get out in your shop and do some stuff. The weather's getting cold, so I know you're not out driving around anyways. Might as well get out and build something. Take it easy, guys.